What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy weekend to everyone as well, including Mr. Shreyas. We discussed our attacking trio today, who it should be, why we're struggling to score, what the best solution is, and if we still need a monster, a clinical striker up top. I think you know the answer to that one. But alongside me, as I've already said, is Mr. Shreyas Singh. I want to start this show off, Shreyas, with one question, okay? Just one question. Who is... Because we're talking about trios and our forward line, who is the greatest trio of all time in your mind, at least? And give me a couple of you think, like, who did you really enjoy watching? And I've got some statistics and stuff to back it up because I imagine there's a couple of you going to say.
Yeah, one has to be Benzema, Bale, and Cristiano.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
just on them. Four Champions League titles, 2014, 16, 17, 18. Obviously, there was abbreviated BBC because you had Benzema, Bale, and Cristiano. Total goals, 442 goals. Total assists, 189. Combined, 631 they had together. Incredible.
Yeah. Apart from that, I think MSN is also up there with them for sure. Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. Apart from that,
on Messi, Suarez, and Neymar,
yeah,
two La Liga titles, one Champions League, 364 goals, 173 assists, combined 537. But obviously a smaller period of time, I think. So they were together 3 years, whereas Ronaldo, Benzema, and Bale were together for 5 years. So there's more output there. But in terms of actually watching them, me personally, I preferred MSN. I thought Neymar, Suarez, and Messi together were fucking unbelievable. There's a couple more examples. We've got Sadio Mane, Firmino, and Salah together as a front three. They had 338 goals together, 144 assists, 482 in total. And then you've got Henry, Eto'o, Messi. But that was a little bit. I think he would have been about 7.
Yeah.
I think when they were thing. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And I weren't much older. I mean, I was 12 when they was kind of cooking. So yeah, the reason why I mentioned these Shreyas is because it feels a lot like we're a long way off at the moment, doesn't it? From anywhere near those kind of records.
Yeah, we have a long way off with pretty much every dimension of it, I would say. Because right now we can see sparks. We can see a level where the current players and talent that we've got at the moment, where they can reach to. Will they reach to it? Will they be able to grow to that level quickly? Will it take them some time? That are questions that are still yet to be answered. But when it comes to talent wise, I think we've got a good crop of talent at the moment at the club, with the age profile, with the profile of players that we've got at the moment. It's a good set of players that we've got. I think the only problem is that because these players are young, you need at least a senior player or perhaps one of these guys to actually start putting up some numbers. Because if every single one of them are in that same zone and no one's firing, but you can still see them sharp, you can still see them making glimpses, it creates a bit of a pressure environment where, because it creates an environment where you go and say that we aren't really playing particularly bad. We are creating chances. It is good to watch. Build up wise, it is good to watch. Moving around the box and taking spots in the box has become much better as well. But conversion wise, it is still an area where we're struggling, which makes it a lot more frustrating. Because when you're not creating chances in the first place and you're struggling, that's a completely different conversation to have. Because then it goes down to the formations, it goes down to the way you build up from the back, midfield working, decision making. A lot of these things go into it. But when it just comes to finishing off clear-cut chances, like you're creating 8 to 9 chances per game and you're still just coming away with 1 goal or no goal at all, I think that creates a much more frustrating environment.
What in your mind? What's the best front three we've had? And I think we'll agree on this. But post Fergie, what's the best front three? Do you think?
I think it has to be Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood during that COVID period. I think they got like 80 plus goals or something in that period throughout all comps.
I've got the total stats here. So individually, Marcus Rashford had 22 goals, 10 assists. Martial had 23 goals, 12 assists, and Greenwood had 17 goals and 5 assists. So 62 goals and 27 assists, a total of 89 goal contributions between them. And at the time, you had Martial and Rashford, who had the best individual seasons. Obviously, Rashford went on to get 30. You had Greenwood, who was rising through this, this fucking top talent. And I think we only secured a 3rd place finish in the Prem and then reached semi-finals as well on top of that. But the reason why, I don't know if you remember those seasons in particular, but it was counter-attacking. You had a lot of space, and they had actually played quite a few games together. That's the difference in it.
Yeah, and that the way we played at that time, it worked. It
Yeah.
worked very, very well. Bruno just coming in gave that team quite a kickstart as well. I think we went 17 or 18 games unbeaten at the end part of that season too. So it built a good morale in the team. It built up some confidence. And like you mentioned, Greenwood was firing, Rashford was firing, Martial was firing as well, and you had, for the first time, I would say, a midfield that was actually able to work quite well. You had Matic, who was doing quite well in that period. You had Pogba, who was doing quite well in that period. Uh, Bruno
Herrera as
came,
well
yeah,
at some point.
yeah, yeah, and you also had the likes of Fred and McTominay chipping in at times as well. So at that moment, it worked. At that moment, we were able to get away with wins. We were able to beat teams convincingly at times as well. We had those four nils, 5 nils. I think we beat Southampton 9-0 during that period as well. So there were a lot of good score lines for us to watch, but I just think that the over reliance in that, during that period, the over reliance on everything was used to be Bruno Fernandes, and it came to a point where he became absolutely swarmed in that midfield. And when Bruno became swarmed, Fred and McTominay didn't have that sort of creativity or the vision to play the sort of balls that Bruno does, or have the on-ball ability that Bruno did, which created a big problem for the forwards. It created a big problem for our defensive line as well. So it just, I think, with time, people just knew how to counter United, and even Oli at the time didn't really know what else to do about it. He had this particular system of counter attacking, and that's the one he stuck to. He had the players which he wanted to play in that system, and those are the ones he stuck to. So the over reliance, I think, actually killed the entire team at that point.
When we talk about chemistry, I think it is majorly important because all those front three that we just mentioned had played hundreds and hundreds of games together. Our front three currently right now, so let's say Xerxes, Rashford, and Ahmad have played what, 3 games together, maybe, something like that. Like they hardly know each other's game. We've got so many new signings as well. De Ligt played probably 3 games with Lisandro Martinez. Ugarte's played a couple of games with Eriksen or so the players don't really know each other that well. They don't really know patterns and chemistry, and this is something that Erik ten Hag touches on all the time. And we still feel like at the minute that he's trying to find the balance in the midfield, and it feels like the back five sorted, doesn't it? At the minute, you know what that's going to be. The midfield and attack. I mean, I don't know. Just when we're talking about the front three currently, what's best for balance in your mind, in your opinion?
I think Ahmad needs to start on the right. I think Rashford needs to start off from the left. And at the moment, Xerxes needs to start down from the middle.
Okay.
If you can actually fit them in, play Xerxes and Højlund in the same team, because I think right now our attack flows a lot better whenever Xerxes is on the pitch. I think we create a lot of chances. I think he causes a lot of troubles to team because he's able to link up quite well with the wingers. He's able to play them in. He knows when to switch on and when to switch off around the box as well. So he creates a lot of trouble. And whenever Højlund has got on, he's hardly been on the ball to actually do anything about it. So maybe, having Xerxes and Højlund both in the team at the same time can rectify that problem, because I think in the midfield you still have a lot of options to work with. You have got a lot of players. Maybe you need to make some hard calls and actually find out what is the perfect way to make it an efficient midfield. You've got Casemiro, you've got Ugarte, you've got Mount, you've got Bruno, you've got Eriksen, you've got Menu. That's 6 midfielders in itself. So there are genuinely a lot of angles you can come at it from. You can play Eriksen in the 10, you can play Mount in the 10. Both of them can do just a fine job. You can play Casemiro and Ugarte behind them. You can play Ugarte and Menu behind them. So there are actually a lot of options for Ten Hag to actually go with. But we all know that he's not going to make certain calls. Bruno is going to be playing every single game, but I would say for the first time he actually has options to go to, because earlier on in the past season with injuries and before that as well, I could say that there genuinely isn't enough strength on the bench for him to actually make quality options or quality substitutions. But this season he does have those options. If Menu is knackered, he can get Ugarte on. If Bruno isn't playing well, he can get Mount on. He can even play Xerxes in the 10 and get Højlund on. So there are a lot of options he can play. He can play Ahmad in the 10 as well, and actually play with Rashford and Garnacho on the wing. So will he be making those calls? Will he be doing it? I think that is yet to be seen.
Yeah, and I think some of the people in the chat are kind of touching on this as well. Steph saying Hoyland, Xerxes, Garnacho, Ericsson with Ugarte and Casemiro in a double pivot. So Xerxes in the 10, Hoyland up top, Garnacho on the left. Who's on the right though? Or are you saying maybe Xerxes on the right? Xerxes on the left, Hoyland up top, Garnacho on the right. I think that's the interesting thing. You could either put Mount out there, you could put Bruno Fernandes out there.
Exactly.
Like there's so much fluidity and rotation. It's just about getting the best, like waiting for that moment to click in it almost. That's what it feels like. Big up Shreyas and Nick. Thank you very much for that. Rooney, Ronaldo, and Tevez wasn't too shabby. Yeah, I was going to go with that, but I wanted to do post-Fergie because we've been struggling with goals and attack at times, and I think that's the best kind of sample size to go off, personally. That Rashford, Martial, Greenwood season was COVID season, no fans in the stadium. I think that's an important point to make as well. Yeah, of course. The NHS season, when they had the love art on the front of the shirt. Yeah. Manchester's Red Forever says Garnacho, Hoyland, Ahmad, and then Bruno in behind. A lot of people going with Garnacho and Hoyland, which I think is interesting. I do think they'll probably play against Tottenham tomorrow. We touched on that in the preview, didn't we?
Yeah. I think Ten Hag is going to go with as many direct players that he's got up against Tottenham. Yeah,
I agree. Inverted forwards, wingers have too many excuses. Pick and choose with goal, assist obsession. Goals only currency that matters. With 4 midfielders, we're going to get cooked. We used to have 4 midfielders. Okay. Inverted belly button. Okay. Very, very random. Extremely random, and has completely thrown me off. Yeah, but in this case, if we're saying, I think we both agreed that we would probably like Xerxes, Ahmad, and Rashford, right?
Yeah.
What do you do with Garnacho and Hoyland?
They're good options to have on the bench as impact subs.
Do you think they're better as impacts? Because Rasmus, since he's come back, I don't even think he's hardly touched the ball, has he, off the bench?
He hasn't. And look, it's going to take him time to be absolutely match sharp. It will take him time. I think he needs consistent minutes. But even for that to happen, he has to be involved in the game. And whenever he's been on, he's been hardly involved in the game. Look, I'm a big fan of him. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think he can prove really lethal in games. But you need to be playing in a team where he actually gets on the ball. He gets some service.
Yeah.
You need to make him involved. So if you can't involve him whenever he's breaking through the lines and making runs, you're absolutely killing off his game. So,
do you think he's worried about his position now with Xerxes coming in?
I don't think so.
Do you think Ten Hag will stay loyal to him a little bit and maybe fully make him a starter again?
He's practically going to be playing 60-65 games this season. Xerxes isn't going to be playing every single one of them. Even if Xerxes plays most games, Hoyland will easily get 30 to 35 games. So he's going to get enough opportunities to actually prove his...
Still a youngster as well, innit? Both of them, to be
fair. Exactly. Yeah. And with Garnacho as well, look, it's good that he's on the bench. Or I would say even if Ahmad's on the bench or even if Rashford is on the bench, it's good that they're on the bench because at least you've got some good players or some quality players who can actually cause trouble to actually bring them on. Because last season, and you look at the bench, you've got Anthony, you've got Ericsson, and those used to be the only 2 senior players that we used to have. Other than that, used to be academy players just filling off on the benches. So it's good to have that. You look at City, you look at Arsenal. When you look at their benches and the players that Arsenal start games with Jesus or Kai Havertz and Saka and Martinelli, they got Trossard on the bench who's got like 24, 25 goal contributions for them last year, just chilling on the bench. So you need those sort of players too when they come on against tired legs. And as an impact sub, I think Garnacho can prove deadly, same as Rashford. You put them on against tired legs, they're going to cause a lot of issues to any defense that they come up against. So I'm not too worried when it comes to, rotations or distributing game time, because even we've seen Ten Hag loves to make substitutions around that 60th to 65th minute mark, and he makes on an average 3 to 4 substitutions per game. So I think players will get minutes. Who's going to be starting? I think once we actually see players converting and, once we actually start taking our chances and put away teams convincingly, I think that's the only time where I can say that, Ten Hag's got his best front 3 figured out.
Do you know what the maddest stat is ever, right? So you mentioned Bruno there. You mentioned Mason Mount. That's what, £100 million worth of talent, let's say. Rasmus Højlund, 70 million quid. Xerxes was like 40, call it with agent fees as well. You've got Rashford is probably worth 60. Ahmad, we bought, I think, for 30 with total with add-ons. So 40, I think. So you get up to 250, £300 million worth of talent, and I think they've got about 3 goals between them. That is fucking extremely worrying.
Another 100 million chilling on the bench as well.
Yeah, and Anthony. No one's even mentioned Anthony. And Jadon Sancho could have been thrown into that as well before he got sold. So, every player has either got one goal or one assist. So the question is, are they bad finishers or is it just a case of chemistry?
I think it's got to do with chemistry for sure. I think that's why I said that it will take them time to actually play much be able to finish off chances fluidly. I think it will take them at least a couple of months at least. And apart from that, I think some of them has to some very poor decision making as well. With Garnacho, look, he's played 8 games, he's got 7 goal contributions right now. So I can't really say much about Garnacho at the moment, but Xerxes, I think, has been very unlucky at times. He's been playing
I
very,
agree.
very well, been very decent, but he's been equally as very unlucky. Ahmad, at times, his decision making, whenever he has got the opportunity to play Xerxes in or play Rashford in, I think he hesitates a couple of seconds a bit more, and the chance gets a bit, just dies off, or an offside trap gets played. But apart from that, look, all of them have been genuinely playing well. And even when you look at Garnacho, in the game, I think it was against Palace, Dean Henderson was just at his game at that moment. 9 out of 10 games, both of the chances that he tried to convert with, they go in.
Do you not
And
feel like
that
we've been
game,
saying that though all the time though? I
yeah,
agree
yeah,
with you, but
yeah.
I feel like we're saying that all like if that would have happened or if this I'm just like when does them ifs turn into what a finish?
Because I don't even think that it's a case of we get one game as a goal fest and it just starts flowing. We've had that. We beat Southampton 3-0. We beat Barnsley 7-0. That's the best launch pad that you can get to your season when it comes to scoring off your chances convincingly. I think it's a case of chemistry. And even last season we said this a lot of times as well. Garnacho never passes the ball to Hoyland whenever
No,
they're on the pitch.
no.
He never passes the ball to Hoyland. Hoyland has played him in on a couple of
Mm.
occasions, but Garnacho hasn't. So
There was one
it's
moment actually when I don't know what game it was where Garnacho actually squared it. He passed it across the box, and it was almost like this revelation when you're watching it. You're like, "What's going on?" You know what I mean? You're like, "He's actually passed it across the box."
yeah,
Because it's so crazy because he shoots every single time. I can't.
yeah,
Someone will know what game I'm on about, but he squared it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is nice." It's the simple things in football, like just pass to your mate. You know what I mean? If he's in space,
exactly.
pick him out.
Yeah,
And City do that the best, don't they? Out of any team.
yeah, they do. And look, that's why I'm saying it's going to take them some time. And maybe because of it is still a better game to look at, I would say, at the moment in comparison to last season. It genuinely is a much better game to look at. I think the last 2 games could have been very easy wins for us against Twente as well as Palace. I think we could have easily taken 6 points from both those games, like genuinely. And both of those teams hardly had a sniff. Like genuinely, Palace as well for like 60 to 70 minutes. They
Mm.
barely got anything in front of goal. Onana really didn't have much to do. It was after those moments where the game was 0-0 and he had to make that double save, which was practically able to keep us in the game. But most of the time, I think our back five has been solid. Like genuinely, Mazarawi has
Yeah,
been
it's
great.
been all
Has
right.
been excellent. Dallo as well. I think in certain games he's been slow, but apart from that, even he's been all right playing off from that left hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Martinez has had a slow start, but he's slowly and steadily getting into it. Had a good moment on the ball against Twente, so he's getting back into gear too. So the back five, I am very happy about. Midfield choices, I am a bit skeptical with because I think there are better options to look at. If I'm not saying that Bruno is a bad player, I think Bruno, when it comes to world class players, he's probably the one of the only ones that we've got left. But right now he isn't performing. So you need to bench him. You need to give Eriksen a go when he's playing so well on the ball. He's playing, as a press resistant six. He's been playing so well, which
Yeah,
none of us would have, actually thought about at the start of
I
this
know.
season that he'll be playing as a six when you've got Casemiro as well as Ugarte and Minu at the club.
Yeah.
So, look, you need to give opportunities to these players, and maybe it kickstarts Bruno's season as well. That there are other players who can take my position. Competition for places, as many people say. You need to do that with the front three. I think it is just a matter of a couple of months, and we'll see a much better conversion rate from them.
What I think is interesting is we put a poll up at the start of the show saying the best front four, and the majority that's won by 54% is Garnacho, Hoyland, Ahmad, and Xerxes. So that would then suggest to me that a lot of people they're getting frustrated with Bruno Fernandes, and and I understand it completely. They want to see Xerxes in there, Hoyland up top, Garnacho on the left, Ahmad on the right. I didn't think that was what most people would go for. I thought what we said, for example, but I'm certainly open to it, and I'm sure we're going to see it at some point. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's voted on that, and thank you to everyone in the chat as well joining us on a Saturday afternoon. We're not going to keep you for long in the City game because City kick off at half past, so we're very mindful of that for anyone who's watching that game. Sean saying, I think it's a bit of both, Nick, but remember, other than Rashford, they're relatively young and Xerxes still settling. It'll take time for them to gel, progress as youngsters. There's no easy out. Well, that's the decision you're making it when... Instead of going, I mean, we had a conversation back in, I think it was like May or something, when we was talking about, are they going to go get a senior striker who, and Ivan Toney, let's say, for example, someone or Dominic Solanke like Tottenham did, or are they going to go get a youngster to compete with Højlund? And they've gone down that route, and by going down that route, you take the risk of saying, well, they might not be at the level required straight away. So maybe Ineos had that in mind and like, we're willing to watch them progress, potentially.
Yeah, I just think he plays at the moment with the talent and profiles that Ten Hag has worked with before. I think even they were quite precautious with Zoxy because they knew that if we get a senior figure in, might not be the best environment for a senior pro to actually come in right now because we are already facing a lot of issues. Ten Hag has had 2-3 fallouts already with senior players at the club, so much better to go in with a younger profile. Who's quite versatile and is much more eager to actually expand his game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Manchester's Red Forever saying, I mean, with the midfield, we're getting cooked, not with 4 midfielders. What lineup did we pick against Tottenham? So we chose, I think, did we have a similar one? Or did we have... No, we both picked one, but then we started changing it, didn't we? Like, towards the end of the stream. I think it's going to be Garnacho, Rasmus, and Rashford because of the high line that Spurs play. The midfield, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I went a bit mad. I think I said Ugarte, Casemiro, and Mainu, potentially, I think I said. I want to see Mainu higher up, personally. I think it'd be decent.
He can do a job. He can do a job
so.
in that.
Yeah. Because you think the way he receives the ball, even with his back to goal sometimes, his composure and dribbling, he gets out of tight spaces really, really well. Now, maybe the creativity in that area, playing the through ball or in behind, maybe he's not as good at Bruno Fernandes as that. But I think if you want to retain possession in the game, putting Mainu in there, you can do a lot worse, just in my opinion. But I don't know.
I think both him as well as Eriksen, both of them can do just a decent job. Just as much of a decent job there. I think Ten Hag actually picks Bruno because somehow at the end of every season you can just see Bruno pulling up with numbers. Like if you look at the past 3 seasons, Bruno has been consistently coming up with 25 plus goal contributions every single season. I think that's the major reason why he actually picks him.
Do you know what I miss about Bruno? The first 2-3 years, and you'll remember this, the goals he scored from outside the box.
Oof.
Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes he would have pingers, finessing top
Remember
right.
Remember his curler against Everton where he got the ball.
The chip.
Yeah,
the chip. And that's gone completely from his game. He used to have that all the time, like just scoring bangers and bangers. And now it just feels like he's gone away. Maybe he's like slightly changed his style, or he's gone away from it.
He changed his game altogether under Ten Hag. Like you see, under Oli, he used to do it all the time, every single time, man. I think because of his positioning as well, it helped him out a lot. Because under Oli, you could see Bruno actually, occupying that area around the final third a lot more. And under Ten Hag, that hasn't really been the case that much. He's much more deeper. Even in the opportunities that he actually gets around in the box, he's more inclined to passing or making aerial balls rather than actually going for goal. There were only a couple of instances last season where I actually saw him doing that. There was one game against Sheffield United where he actually scored from outside the box, and the only other game where I saw it was against Galatasaray, where he scored the banger as well.
Banger.
It's still in his game. Like if you put Bruno Fernandes on the ball at the right area around the box, he can actually score. He's got that in his caliber, but he's just not doing it anymore.
The issue is he's not doing it close to goal. I think about the opportunities he had against Fulham when Casemiro played him in and he missed. I think about the Travella shots that he's had that's just gone wide of the post, which he probably should be finishing.
Against Palace as well.
Against Palace.
In open net.
Yeah.
He went outside of the boot shot, completely missed the net.
The last thing I want to do is encourage him shooting from far out when you're not finishing close up. But I'm just saying, that seems to have gone away from his game and I miss it. But we bring it back to the attackers. How do you improve this? Is it... you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy as the coach now, who's one of the greatest finishers to ever play at Manchester United. So you would hope that would kind of kick him into gear a little bit. You've got that Rashford and Xerxes connection as well, which I think will help kind of create space and more opportunities. But do we just need to let him blossom now? Is there anything else we could do? Any other players we could bring in? Like, what is the solution? Because it's tricky, isn't it?
I don't think that bringing other players in right now is the right move, personally, because I think you've already got a lot of attackers there. And like you mentioned, Bruno can play out wide. Mount can play out wide. Mount has been playing false nine. Bruno has been playing false nine for that matter. So I don't think that it's some. I think at the moment, if you want to bring new faces in, you got to let go of certain faces who are already present at the club. So I doubt that at the. I mean, who would you let go of in this attacking line if you had to? Who would you even let?
I don't know, because I don't think anyone's outperforming anyone else.
Exactly my point.
Pretty even, isn't it? In that sense.
Like, even if you have to make a rash call, who would you go for? Because
no pun intended there when you say rash.
Yeah, of course. Look, you can't let go of Rashford either, because he's the only senior figure in the attack. You can't really let go.
To be honest, I would stick with it at the minute. I would stick with Ahmad, Xerxes and Rashford. Because I think, like I mentioned there, the connection with Xerxes and Rashford looks promising. It looks like we can really build on that. The one thing I will say about Ahmad, though, and you know I'm the biggest Ahmad fan out of anyone, in the first couple of games, he had these stats where he was like our most creative player, you know, the most carries, most dribbles, all that kind of stuff. I do think he needs to be a little bit more creative in his assists. And maybe they're making him, but where Xerxes might not be there. Do you know what I'm saying? So maybe he does need a Hoyland potentially in certain games to find that pass or to find him.
Maybe,
I remember,
like you're mentioning,
was it the Community Shield where it was Mount where he squared it?
Yeah,
and he wasn't there, was
there? Just a little bit away.
There's the example.
Yeah, maybe, you know, like you're mentioning, Xerxes and Rashford, maybe the better pairing for Ahmad is with Hoyland, because like we were mentioning as well, certain wingers play better with certain strikers. Now, maybe Hoyland and Ahmad, and I don't know who plays on the left in that scenario, but maybe they are a better pairing. Maybe with Xerxes, you need to play in with players like Garnacho and Rashford to actually get the best out of him. So I think that is still one thing that Ten Hag has to figure out, how to actually get the best out of his attackers, because right now he's not able to do it.
The thing is we know Ten Hag wants pace in these kind of transitional moments, and you could take out Rashford, you could play Xerxes, Hoyland, Ahmad, but the only pace you're getting really is from Hoyland in behind.
Yeah.
You know, so really you want to do that against a team who's going to be really strict and sit deep. So you've got Xerxes and Ahmad carving out chances and opportunities. But I don't know. I think he's got plenty of players to kind of trial and test it with. But we're in a results business, so you can't afford to be too, you know, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. You've got to win fucking games, haven't you? And we've got Spurs, Villa, Brentford. We've got some tough games coming up. One thing just to add on as well before we head off, Rasmus needs to improve his tally, I think, because we are in. I know he's had his injury as well, so that's like I understand that. But we're in near the end of September now. We're nearly starting October. Obviously, yet to score a goal. He's only played a couple of games. But you look at his tally last season in the league. I think it was 9-10 goals, was it, or something?
10 goals in the league and 6 in the Champions League.
You know, will he improve on that? He needs to.
I think he can. It's just very annoying because he's never on the ball whenever he's actually playing. That's why at certain moments when people say Hoyland needs to do better, I really don't know what to comment, because I can say, look, I know he needs to improve his tally, no doubt about it, but how can he improve his tally when he's never being played in or never being put on the ball around the box? Because that's his best play. You need to get him whenever he's making, you know, the runs that he makes are actually quite good. If you can't track his run, you're not able to get the best out of him. And in last year as well, I think there was a scenario in 10 games he had like 2 touches on the ball or something. He was barely being played on the ball by any of our forwards. So with Hoyland, I think once I actually see him more involved in the game, that's when the criticism can even actually come in.
Yeah, agreed. A lot of work to be done for Manchester United. Andy's in the chat and he's saying, I swear if it's one of those games tomorrow, missing chances and looking like we couldn't score if we play for hours, I will lose my shit. We expect you to be there for the post-match review, Andy, expressing yourself. Don't worry about that, mate. I like to think I'm right sometimes. Come on, you magpies. Bruno misses affects the team massively. Yeah, I agree. Bruno not being in form, he is the nucleus in that sense as well. Like a lot of things go through him. So when he's not
the best, when Bruno plays the best, as simple as that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Steph mentioned Bruno's disallowed banger in the Community Shield. Do you remember? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we miss. It doesn't. I know that they're hard to execute. I'm not saying score one every game, but he did score a lot under Ole. I need to do like a research into that, see how many goals he scored outside the box under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Because I reckon it was quite a lot. Andy's saying I would say we don't play to any of our attackers' strengths, and that's the issue. Is we need cohesion, we need chemistry. Yeah, it needs to, and the only way you can do it is working on the training ground. And like we said, we've got Ruud van Nistelrooy in there, who you would like to hope can have some sort of effect in terms of positioning. What side to go on when the keeper's this way. All those kind of little, nitpicking details. I think he can focus on. So, yeah.
I think even he would say play Hoyland in.
Yeah.
Get him on the ball.
Yeah, get him past. First and foremost, pass the fucking ball to him. That might help, and he might actually score. We need to find our attackers better. We need to find rhythm, and we need to find the perfect front three. Let's see who we go with tomorrow. Interesting to see who that front three is going to be, and hopefully, can you scroll up, Nick? I made a comment about a future formation change. I'd like your opinions on it. Absolutely, Sean. Anything for you, mate? Let me have a look. I think when Euro, is it this one? I think when Euro is back, we could see a 3-5-2, a very Dutch formation. And Ruud van Nistelrooy has played it as a manager. 2 centre mids, a 10, and 2 centre forwards would also really help with pressing, whilst 3 centre backs helps playing out. I like the idea of it. I've always been pushing this idea, but you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
I know. Ten Hag will never play a back.
He will never do it. He won't do it.
He might have no fit centre backs, and he'll still go with a back four. He's never going to play a back. And look, I think people have a wrong idea when it comes to playing with the 3 at the back or 5 at the back, that it's way too defensive or pragmatic. I think there are a lot of teams who play exceptional football while playing a back 5. Leverkusen play a back 5 and they play very, very attacking football.
Leipzig under Nagelsmann.
Yeah, they played attacking football. Tuchel at Chelsea did wonders. While playing
just because it's a back 5, it doesn't, because it starts on the pitch. It doesn't mean it is like that. The amount of rotation and fluidity you can have, honestly, it can switch in game. So this is obsession with like back 5, too defensive, blah blah blah. It's nonsense, absolute nonsense. Yep. You can have a lot of rotate, like you just rightfully. Bayer Leverkusen is one of the most exciting teams to watch, and watch how they play. I'd love us to play football like that, but Ten Hag won't do it. He's stubborn as fuck.
He's never going to play a back. I would even say he's got the players to play it.
Yeah.
You put Casemiro in a back 5 system.
He'd be more protected, and and you got
Euro. Balls. Yeah.
Euro on that right hand side, channel defending. He's really, really good 1v1. He's got the pace. Martinez can step into midfield when needs be. When we have the ball in build up, there's loads of options there, but. I just think he's going to be stubborn and stick to it. So, I appreciate you all joining us on a Saturday. I know it's a relatively quick show for us, at least, because we usually go 40 minutes to an hour sometimes. But there is a game on, so we'll let you go watch some football. Thank you for joining us. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We've got a video at some point this weekend, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, of Mount Rushmore, basically for members. So make sure you go and check that out. If you don't know the concept, it's basically I go through the 4 greatest players to ever play at Manchester United, which is obviously going to be debatable, and obviously going to be a lot of varied opinions on many different players. But that's an idea for the members video this weekend. Tomorrow you got the game against Spurs, and you've got Sunday Social. Sunday's usually the most popular day, so make sure you do not miss that. So we've got a couple of fantastic shows in line. Of course, the review as well, and then you got pros and cons on Monday. So as always, stay locked in. Subscribe to the channel. Check us out on socials. And we'll see you for the game tomorrow, guys.